Hey everybody, it's Mike Sullivan. We have an awesome guest today, and I'm so grateful, David Champoux. It is so cool to have you with us today, and thank you, man, for carving time with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, no, I'm work as a traffic signal operations engineer for Mead Hunt, a well-known national engineering consulting firm, and I live in Palm Beach County, Florida. And we're having a great conversation today on not only the technical intricacies of what a signal operations engineer does, but sort of how do we connect that back to the folks that are in school, coming out of school, and maybe things they should be looking for or looking to
Yeah.
for their futures, as well as sort of the state of the practice. So, Mike, I think what we were talking about is the all of this data and technology. Okay,
Hmm.
big data, as the folks in the business call it, is all wonderful. It really has transformed the way that which civil and transportation engineers, I'll speak transportation, that's really my area, to be respectful to the other civil engineers in the industry. I don't want to speak on off terms, but the way that us transportation and specifically traffic operations folks do our jobs has transformed significantly with having big data, right? So now we don't need to do before and after studies and spending enormous amounts of time and money to get that information. Right now, we have this at our fingertips, right? The detection systems that agencies are running at their traffic signals, as they get upgraded, have the ability to give you lots of controller and phasing and signal timing data and so forth, which is wonderful. Um, in my experience, though, one of the challenges that comes with that responsibility is how we use the data, number one. Number two, how we're training the younger generations in how they view and use the data. Because a red flag that I often see a lot is, we get very accustomed to hearing AI this, AI that, this automated algorithm, this does it for you. Hey, run this report and look at that kind of a thing. And that's great. But if you're not trained in understanding how to look at the stuff and how to validate it, uh, we can get to a situation where we have people coming out of school that are engineers and that are sort of, you could say, they're glorified administrative folks who are just pulling reports, looking at things, but they're not understanding the mechanics
Mm.
of how things are actually working. And so that's something that I've been wanting to continuously do in my business with Mead and Hunt and with my clients is not only retime traffic signals, but also to share how it's done. And again, different ways to do it. And so the way that I like to do it from my experience is just one way, but I think it's incredible in the results, not only from the retiming itself, but also when I can show people, hey, this is how it's done. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's such a good point. Um, and I guess for our listeners and viewers, what was your journey like, David, to get into what you're doing now? What maybe back even like high school or college, or was it a mentor, or how do you get into this line of work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate it, Mike. So my grandfather was an industrial engineer, but he never finished um, enough school to go after getting his professional engineering license.
Mm.
Now, he had a great career.
Hmm.
Again, he was in the engineering business, and he sort of became more of a negotiator, deal maker, okay, like with the unions. Okay. And when we would go visit them in upstate New York, when I was very, very young, it's just 30 something years ago, okay, his neighbor was a civil bridge engineer for New York State DOT.
Mm.
And they're very friendly neighbors. And, he would always have traffic cones in his driveway, and he would have signs. And, I was always fascinated by traffic cones and traffic signs and bridges and all that as I was young and then, approaching high school age. And so I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a civil engineer, but I did not really know the significance of what kind of engineer within civil I wanted to be until I got into college. I went to Clarkson University, which is a very prestigious private school in upstate New York. And specifically why I went there was because I was homeschooled after sixth grade. Okay. I had some learning challenges when I was younger. And I owe a lot to my mother and father because they recognized that the public and private school through grade school just wasn't a match for me, and I wasn't getting what I needed, and I was falling behind. So uh, took me out of school, homeschooled me, and we found a lot of specialists within that area. And then within a few years, I became 1 to 2 years ahead of where I should be for that grade. So
Wow.
that afforded me the ability to go to college early if I wanted to. And Clarkson had a program for high school seniors that if they wanted to start school a year early, they had, a special dorm and certain special things within this program where you could interact, with other high school seniors, but you're taking the same freshman level engineering classes and you're getting matriculated into what that life is. And so it was fortunate enough. My parents were able to, send me there. I think we had a couple scholarships, things of that nature. And within undergrad in civil engineering, I quickly figured out that I wanted to do roadway design or traffic engineering, something along those lines. Now, it really wasn't until junior year where I did an internship at the University of Florida for a summer, where I got to work with one of the university professors who does a lot of research for the Highway Capacity Manual and all of these, ASHITO, and I mean, all of these big organizations across the US where a lot of our standards come from. And so that experience, along with meeting one of my best friends and mentors in the traffic operations business, he worked for the city of Gainesville, Florida as their traffic operations engineer, and then he eventually became traffic manager and all that. And he showed us, and he would invite us there all the time. Hey, feel free to come on up. Hang out for a few hours, whatever. He built a traffic management center, okay, from the ground up, in Gainesville, Florida, which is University of Florida, the Gator football games. It's well known and astute there, and he would show us during the football season how he would essentially command all of the signalized corridors in and out of the university and getting traffic in and out in such an efficient way. It
Mm.
just was unbelievable how even the police departments eventually respected him and said, okay, hey man, where do you need us? We'll let you run the signals. We'll just make sure that people are behaving, blocking lanes off, whatever it is. So all of that was really what just gave me this idea of I want to go into traffic signals and to be able to make a difference the same day. I mean, again, when you have traffic signal infrastructure, right, where all your signal controllers are communicating to a central platform, you can make timing changes. You know what you're looking at. You're seasoned. You're able to improve traffic flow, but also safety for all of the people that are within your jurisdiction. And that's what really struck me. And so when I finished undergrad, I wanted to get a master's. I wanted to solidify that practice. I did that. I went to University of Massachusetts in Amherst for that. And then I started my career as a traffic operations engineer and eventually got my PE license and all the other credentials that follow that. And I think what I'll sort of wrap this thought up is, looking back, it was not an easy journey, but nothing in life, I think, is easy unless you work at it. And I'm grateful for all of the people along the way that have taken the time to share their thoughts, their insights, their advice, and had patience for me when I asked a lot of questions. Well, how does this work? Or all the professors, I was trying to get A's and B's in college, and hey, professor, help me understand. I don't understand how to solve this problem. And so that's where I came from. And part of my mission in my role with Mead Hunt and beyond here as I go through the rest of my career is look for ways to give back and to connect with younger engineers, people that are coming out of school, people that are in high school, because with all the technology, there's so many different paths you can do, but you have to be careful and focused in making sure that you're not getting sidetracked with other things. And again, different discussion, different day. But that's what I'm most excited for is we need more traffic operations engineers. AI is not going to time all the traffic lights. It'll help with workflows, and it's just my opinion. Okay, but we need to train people how to do this stuff, and that's where I see myself, and I'm excited.
And I love that. Thank you for sharing that, David. That's such a cool journey and a cool story, and about your grandfather and how just everything moved along. That was really cool. And if a young high school student or a college student is thinking of getting into operations and doing what you're doing, what kind of encouragement, I guess, would you give to him or her?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I appreciate it. Okay, so I used to think that the best way to show people how hard you work is just by getting in the trenches and doing stuff. And that's not to say that that's not a component, okay, that I would say to a high schooler or, maybe someone that's in eighth grade or maybe somebody that is in 12th grade, right? And they're trying to college plans or trade school plans are. Go be courageous and interested and curious in learning about how different systems of things work. Be confident and patient with yourself in asking questions of different people that you may get in touch with, whether it's through an internship, whether it's through a volunteer opportunity, right? Certain people might get a little frustrated about, okay, well, it's not paid or this or that. Look for different opportunities where you can learn how these things work. And so I think looking back, the biggest thing that I can share is it's not just about, okay, well, I have to learn algebra or I need to learn thermodynamics or I need to learn material science or calculus or differential equations to do this work. I have met so many great signal technicians who, are retiring now that they don't have credentials, other than certain certifications to work in the electronics, right, or the traffic signal cabinet side. But a lot of us engineers, we go to them for amazing guidance, especially on the design side, right? They're the ones looking at the CAD drawings, right? And say, when we go, if the designer is suggesting we're going to put the cabinet on this corner, I don't know if anyone caught this, but listen, we already have infrastructure here. We're going to need to move this over a little bit or get to the next corner, something like that, right? And so my point is that when I started out, I was very timid until I met my mentor from University of Florida in Gainesville. And I saw how he interacted with his signal technicians. I mean, he would joke with them. I mean, he was comfortable. He respected them. They respected him. And it was this mutual positive energy of, just because you're an engineer, to me as a technician, I expect you to prove your worth and vice versa. But I respect you. Ask whatever questions you want. So my point is that we have a lot of resources online today. There's so many things that you can read about and to try to get your footing. But what I would strongly encourage young people to do is get out and talk to people, go after those internships, go to your local town's public works building, ask them, hey, I'm interested in wastewater systems. I'm interested in roadway design. I'm interested in how culverts are built. I'm interested in how the traffic signals work. Do you guys have opportunities for shadowing? I'm in this
Yeah,
academic
it's a
program
great
and I
idea.
really would love to write a report on it.
Great
Whatever it
idea.
is.
Yeah, no,
That's
great.
what
Shadowing's
that's
brilliant.
it.
Shadowing's brilliant.
Yeah.
And the teamwork concept and how the person you met, that you watch the interaction and the people skills, the teamwork. Like he's going, wait, okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing, and everyone here is important and needed. And how do we make this
Mhm.
work together? Like it's here, but what do we put it here? What do you guys think of that? Or what if we add
Exactly.
this to it? That
Yep.
curiosity and that creativity is
Yep.
that kind of what I'm picking up from you, David. It's that there's a creative element as well. If that's okay to say, what do you think? Is that kind
A-
of in there?
Absolutely. And I think so two things. Um, so I'm speaking from my experience, right? Different way, different engineers have sort of different upbringings, different
Mm-hmm.
experiences, all positive,
Yeah.
okay? One's not right or wrong. For me, what's made me a better engineer is through my experience of every project that I've worked on, every client, every agency individual that I've had the privilege of connecting with, learning from,
Mm.
understanding what they need, from the designer side or the operation side, or even when I worked on the agency side, right? So many great people at that agency that I learned from and bounced ideas off of, and so. Um, I think our world is very fast paced and it continues to accelerate. Some days it's quite overwhelming, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do I fit in? What am I looking to do or contribute? But I think the biggest constant that will always be there for me, at least, is having the courage and giving myself the permission to slow things down when I need to and ask questions and give it my all
Mm.
instead of being worried about, okay, well, what does somebody else think of me? Or,
Mm.
hey, I need to just get this out the door. That's the deadline and so forth. I think a lot of times we get stuck in telling a story before something unfolds, right? Before it's meant to organically unfold, and then you can tell the story. And this holds true for traffic signal timing. And a lot of my experiences, um, signal time is one of those things where people just want to, okay, well, we know an issue, let's solve the issue, let's do some before and after data. Hey, we've improved the travel time, we've reduced the number of stops. Okay, now let's move on. We can publish this, and everyone's happy. But really, in my opinion, there's so much more that we can learn and apply and serve the motoring public, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or somebody in a motor vehicle or a bus or whatever it is. So, um, you mentioned creativity. I just want to highlight that one of the tools that we use to create signal timing plans through a series of intersections on what we call a corridor or an arterial is the time space diagram, right? So if you go back to physics,
Mm-hmm.
right, your basic 2D plot, right, x-axis, y-axis, right, time and space. And when you plot that linear equation or linear function, right, that's speed, right? So it's a diagonal line, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
sloped line, right? And that slope is your speed, right? Um, that diagram is like my paint canvas. Okay.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how I come up with timing plans is like I got a bunch of paintbrushes and I got a bunch of colors and I am watching a delicious Bob Ross episode on PBS.
I used to love Bob
And
Ross.
I
Yeah.
love Bob Ross, right? And when he's talking about, okay, well, where are we going to put this beautiful tree?
The
I'm thinking
trees.
about, okay, well, where's this intersection, in space, right? Okay,
Yeah.
half a mile down the street, whatever it is. Okay,
Yeah.
now where do I want these platoon of cars to be arriving in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, as the engineer, I can dictate that,
It's
right?
pretty
Using
cool. Yeah.
physics and things. Anyway, so the point is that um, there's so many ways to be creative and use your left and right brain in being an engineer, and not just. I think sometimes maybe people think, oh, well, it's mathematics, it's a lot of analytical. At least in my work, it's not just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling a story, letting things unfold, but then telling the whole story.
I love it. I see a TV show in your future, David. I see instead of that
Appreciate it.
happy trees like Bob used to do, and I
Yeah.
loved it. I actually
Hmm.
learned how to do some paintings from him, like
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
techniques, and I just went, that's genius. He's making it simple for
Hmm.
someone like me that can put
Yep.
a mountain in or a happy tree, and you can have a happy
Hmm.
platoon, a happy approach, happy
Exactly.
signal.
It's true.
And so
It's true.
happy crosswalk,
It's true.
for the dog that's crossing. Everybody
Exactly.
loves dogs, so
Mhm.
yeah,
Yep.
no, that's awesome. And if there's something on your heart, David,
Hmm.
because you've shared so many golden nuggets, like awesome, love it, thank you.
Hmm.
And if there's something on your heart that you're like, you know what, I wish Michael would have asked me this. I wanted to share
Hmm.
this, and he didn't ask me this. What would this be? What's on your heart, if any? Just to share anything.
I think that a lot of times, so I'll just
Yeah.
share sort of an experience. I think a lot of times, our society, our way, that we work in business, um, is such where it's fast paced. We have deliverables to meet to provide people. We want to make sure we're doing a great job.
Hmm.
I think sometimes perhaps we're not always there for each other as humans,
Mm,
with that compassion, empathy, and sort of respect and kind of holding space for where people are at sometimes in their lives, both personally and professionally. Um, we really don't know what people are dealing with on any given day. Somebody could have just had a loved one pass away,
mm,
and they're just trying to figure out how to get through the day, right? So
yeah.
I think something that I'm really working hard to instill in myself and the people that I get the pleasure of working with in all of my work is sort of bringing the work back to how can I make a difference and leave this exchange with this person where their cup of energy is a little more full than it was before they had the chance to engage with.
Yeah.
And
Love
so
that.
I think we can do a lot more of that, even in very small doses.
David, thank you so much, brother.
Welcome.
That was, I mean, everything you shared, I love. It's beautiful. I don't even know what to say. It's going to be the easiest edit ever. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing your time, your
You're
passion,
welcome.
your left and right brain, your
Mhm.
creativity, and the logic,
Mhm.
and all your skill sets, and just your heart for this. For the future
Welcome.
generation, the kids out there that are going to be looking to do what you do. So thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Wherever people go, one signal at a time, one project, one design, making tomorrow brighter than today. They're building better communities, keeping families safe on every street, helping traffic move, helping dreams come true, making life a